Should just be starting. Yeah. Hello, good evening, good morning, wherever you are across the globe. You're watching the Car Sim and Race Driver Show with me, Hugh Hattrick, and my very special guest, all the way from New Zealand, live via the internet. It is James Maxwell. Good morning, James.
Yes, good evening, Hugh. How are you, mate?
I'm very well indeed. It's great to have you with us, and we've got lots of people waiting. We've already had questions coming through to be asked, which is absolutely fantastic. So we'll get started now. James, you were in the chat we've had before we got started. You were telling me that you were into Gran Turismo from the beginning when it first came out. So let us know a bit about your history of how you got started in Gran Turismo.
Yeah, Gran Turismo's got a little bit of a long story for me. It all started back in Bathurst in 2001. I went to watch Bathurst. Most people have heard of it. It's Australia's most famous racetrack. And went there with a mate. And when I finished that, I was just into cars. I brought a project car, and I noticed my brother was playing a car game. And I was like, "Oh, mate, what's that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's Gran Turismo, PlayStation, get on it." And I did instantly. I became addicted. Remember having many a sore thumb from grinding Gran Turismo back on the old buttons of the controller. And then, from there, it just became a bit of a love affair, I guess. Gran Turismo 3 and 4 were really where it ramped up. And then we sort of dropped off for 5 and 6. And then when sport was dropped, I had just moved to New Zealand and I had a little bit of free time on my hands. So we picked up the old PlayStation 4 and Gran Turismo and just started grinding away on the controller again. And about a year ago, we moved over to the wheel. And since then, the game has pretty much changed.
Yeah.
It's once you get a wheel, it's just so much different. I can definitely recommend it for any of those thinking of swapping over.
Now, do you have some favourite tracks? For example, especially in the earlier Gran Turismos that you played, things like Trial Mountain and other ones. There were lots of, either you loved them or you hated them. Did you have any kind of favourites there?
That's the one that I remember. Trial Mountain that's the one where you cut the chicane at the last and you used to fly over all the grass, just trying to get few record laps, or it was late in the game and you had to just overtake P1 and he was just coming to that chicane and you knew that once he got there you were going to get him because you were going to jump the grass and fly through there. I think that's even maybe how you get golds in the early licenses back there too.
Yeah, you see, I was a good boy. I never cut the corner like that. That's why I was too slow.
So, maybe my brother showed me that actually, because I remember just struggling forever and not being able to gold that track. And then I think I must have been watching my brother play one day and he just sailed straight over the grass. I was like, what? You can go over the grass there.
We all had to wait and go through the chicane thinking we'll get a penalty. If we're already ready for the GT Sport penalty system by this point.
It's going to be very heavy there, one would suggest. No cutting at all. Keep that.
Yes, if it comes in the new game, that'll be it all over. But so you've got some good favourites there, and so you played pretty much all the Gran Turismo games right the way through.
Yeah, 1 and 2, I was more into driving at that stage with my own car, but I did play them fairly heavily in my spare time. But 3 and 4, I 99% of those. I've since read on Reddit that you couldn't 100% them and they had a bug. They had a 99% bug. So maybe I had the 99% bug. But I had never 100% of a car game. Because I from there I moved into Forza and I 99% of the first couple of Forzas as well. Just couldn't ever pass one. But we finally the other day got the Platinum Trophy in Gran Turismo Sport. So I'm fairly chuffed about that, actually. That's been a long road, 3 years.
So the Platinum Trophy. So is that for doing all the kind of...
that's level 50, 91 wins, 322 races. And what's the other one? There's another one in there too. Maybe pole positions. I think center pole positions, 61 pole positions.
Well, that's pretty good. I've never had that. I think I'm on my main account. I think I got to level 37 or 38. on I think because it comes down as emerald or something. I can't quite remember the different one, but no, that is a real milestone to achieve. Now, for all the guys watching, James is incredible at his lap times. I'm sure you've seen him on his streams do these lap guides as well. But what is your top tips for getting a good lap time? Because you really are pretty much near the top 10 with your lap guides and with your lap times.
Yeah, one of the things that we were just talking about that was probably worth bringing up was that the importance of which corner is the most important. So every track has a most important corner to a least important corner, and you really want to know which one the most important one is. It's the fastest corner onto the fastest straight.
Mm-hmm.
And, that corner has to be nailed every time, and that will consistently keep your lap time low. And then you slowly just sort out the other corners.
So the fastest corner leading to the fastest straight is the one that you need to get right. That's the most important one.
Yeah. So on Monza, that's probably the parabolica, I guess. So
Because you were doing really fast times. Was it 1:56.3? Was it that you got?
Yeah, that was on the stream, and then since we've done on Tuesday night, we did a 55.7. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'll keep going on that. We smashed out a quick lap guide, so that should be enough.
I'm going to say with a 55.7, you could work for Avis for that one. That's what they were thinking. Nobody's quicker than an Avis delivery driver, and certainly not in my experience. It was like that is an incredible time, because the best line time in the world was like a 1:55.3. So to get a 1:55.7, that is really something. But especially on Monza, which is a tricky track, because you've got to get the chicanes, you've got to get the curbs right, all of that, isn't it? And it's that's an epic response. I'll start asking some of the questions from your fans here. Here we go. So get ready for these ones. Now, where, who, how do you find the motivation to keep going faster? By Loopy Racing.
Motivation to keep going faster. That is the best question I've had. I've never really thought about it. I think I just continually move the goalposts. So I started. I think we were just chatting. I started about 7 to 10 seconds off the pace back when I was a controller player. Actually, that gets me to a story before that. On Gran Turismo 5, I think they had the first competitive mode for the Nissan Academy Challenge.
Oh, yeah.
I think I remember sitting down one day, like I thought as you do, you think you're written a bit. Sat on the couch one day to cut a couple of hot laps, thinking I was a Gran Turismo professional. And I spent maybe an hour or two cutting laps or whatever the challenge was. And then I checked my rank and I was 4,500 fastest in the world. And I was extremely demotivated. I just looked at that. I was like, there is no way you can drive a car faster around that track than what I've done. And instantly I just hung up the controller. That was it. I never had a second go.
Yeah.
And then when Sport came out, same sort of deal. You just realized how slow you were as you were driving along. But I had a bloke from work started playing at the same time. And so that was the initial motivation. We just played together, and every morning before work, we would discuss who had the fastest time and where we were finding it. And at that time, I think both of us were about 7 seconds off the pace, like 7 seconds out of the leaderboard. And it just became a slow grind. Like the first target was 5 seconds, and then the target became 2 seconds, and then the target became 1 second. And I think the current target that I try and be is always under 1%. So, if we can get within 1%, I pretty much hang up the boots then, and then it's time to swap over and start racing.
Yeah, that would be pretty good. But you're not far away. Judging by those times at Monza, that was something. Now, before we go on to our next question, I wanted to wish a happy birthday to one of our very loyal followers who's been with us from day one, when literally he was our only follower on the Car Sim and Race Driver show, which wasn't that long ago, to be fair. So I want to give a big shout out and birthday wishes to Pagan Ant. Ant, happy birthday to you. Thank you very much for being so loyal, and I hope you're well and enjoying the show. Now, I'll quickly go on to our next question by another one of your fans. Now, here we are. It is question 2 by CST BFO Fat Furby. Question 2, how did you feel getting beaten around Tsuba by Furby?
Yeah, so first of all, happy birthday, Ed. Thanks for dropping in and having a watch. I hope you're enjoying the show, mate. How did I feel getting beaten? Well, so we had a practice lobby just last night. I've been talked into taking the FIA series a little more serious. And so I had a practice lobby the other night and promptly got beaten by Furby on a better strategy. Consequently, we have done 2 sessions of high fuel runs, practice lobbies since by myself to make sure that my opening stint is up to pace. Yeah, so that's how I feel.
Trying to embarrass you on TV. That's on the one.
Exactly. It's always enjoyable.
But now, though, because you do live streaming a lot. And how have you found, your channel's growing a bit, and do you just find that every week that you stream, kind of more and more people start to watch, or you think there's a secret to how you're doing it, sir?
Secrets? No. The biggest secret I would have is just be yourself and do what you want to do. If you like YouTubing for hours on end, then just jump on and do some streams. If you like making videos, just make videos and post them. The no real secrets. The only advice I have would be interaction is the key. You really, I think everyone that has not everyone, but everyone that has a YouTube channel has a little bit of ego. You do enjoy time with yourself, essentially. You really have to share your ego with other people. There's plenty of people out there putting content on YouTube, and they're enjoying their racing and they're enjoying sharing what they're doing. And you should just be involved. Be involved with every person that watches my channel and makes a comment, says hi. I try and make sure I go out of my way and I see if they have content on their channel. And if I enjoy it or if I have something to add, I definitely comment and like, and just really try and keep it all about the community and the people, because without other players, Gran Turismo is an empty game. The sports side of it is where the enjoyment comes from. And I try and get in a habit when I'm in a lobby, like the online lobbies racing, always congratulating the winner, always saying well done to the guys on the podium, sending messages to guys that you have really good races with. Just let them know that they raced really well, and really try and remove the negativity out of the game. If you watch enough streams, you'll see that me, like everyone else, does get negative. I do get angry. I do swear. I do punt people, and
sometimes unavoidable.
Stuff is stuff that I wish that I didn't do. But at the end of the day, you're human. But I also try and make sure I go out of my way to, like I said, just really encourage other players and really encourage people that are trying to do the best thing. If you race clean, I'll always say thanks for the clean race, or I try and redress if I make serious errors. Like if I think I've done, the wrong thing, just redress out of courtesy.
My next question, actually. I was kind of jokingly say for your followers will be no doubt commenting to see if you tell the truth on this one. But are you would you call yourself quite a clean racer overall? Do you try and avoid punting and things like that, or do you find that it seems to affect your laps more than you would like?
Would I call myself clean? I'm an in-car racer, so I race in-car view, which generally means I don't have the best awareness of how close cars are, and I do like to run close proximity. So if I give you room on the outside to overtake me, as we move into the braking zone, I'll squeeze to the white line to make sure there's only one car there.
Yeah.
But sometimes, sometimes you make contact on the way in, or I always try and, like, if you're watching some of the replays, you'll see that I come right across to the edge of the road to just make sure there's only one car width so they don't have an advantage to overtake me. But if I touch them or run them out of room in that scenario, then I'll redress or apologize, or if I spin them out, like I didn't spin a guy out the other day, but I remember having a battle with the bloke in first for a lap or two, and I accidentally touched him, but I noticed a guy in third or fourth was coming through the field really, really quickly. So I took off just to make sure that I would keep the first/second position. But by the time we got to the final lap, it was a daily race C. The guy that I had the accident with at the start of the race was in second position, and I'd cost him like 4 or 5 seconds, and he was sitting about 4 or 5 seconds behind me. So I just pulled over on the line to let him pass because he lost 5 seconds in the battle with me earlier. I saw him move down the field, and he moved back into second position. Really, if we didn't have that contact, he would have won the race. So I thought it was I cost him that time, so I gave him that time back.
That was very good. That was like Fangio. I'm sure Fangio did that to Sterling Moss once, many years back. But in the same token, if he was third or fourth or had run off, I wouldn't have slowed down in that case. But because he was the car behind me on track, you could do it. Yeah. It was more possible to do it. Yeah. Well, that's really good. I've got another question for you. The top 3 racing games that you like, not including Gran Turismo.
This is a really, really difficult question because the list of racing games I've played I've played Forza, Gran Turismo. I think I've played a few of the F1 games, but that's pretty much the limit of it. So I did try Project Cars 2 and El Seta Corsa, but no game apart from Gran Turismo or Forza has had... the Formula One games, but no games other than Forza or Gran Turismo have really spent more than 2 hours in my console at any time. So it's like, I really did love F1, and I do try and play, like, the new ACC came out. And I really did try that. But prior to moving to New Zealand, I was all about not being into sim racing. I wanted... I had a real project car, and I used to go do mountain cruises and track days and car cruises and all that kind of stuff. So all my money and time went into the real world rather than the virtual world. And it's only since moving to New Zealand I don't have a project car or a shed or anything over here to work on. So that's all the time just gets pumped into Gran Turismo at the moment, all the spare time.
And it can be addictive, isn't it? Because it's easy to play into the night on Gran Turismo, isn't it? When you get into this kind of rhythm of it, and you get a good race combination. It's I love Brands Hatch on Group 4, and every time that's on, I do tend to find I'm spending some late nights on that one trying to get some good results there. But now one of the questions we have from one of our co-hosts, Jonathan, is saying, do you follow Formula One? And did sim racing come from a love of car racing, or a love of computer games?
The cars. It's always been about the cars for me. I'm a mechanic by trade, and I just love tinkering with cars. So my favorite hobby is working on cars. Driving has always been secondary. Even the reason that I do track days was to modify my car to go on the track. It wasn't necessarily to go out there and learn how to drive fast. For those that watch Initial D, I'm the guy with the oil in the veins, not the petrol in the veins. So it was always about hands-on. It was all about modifying. I really always wanted to be a motorsport mechanic. Wasn't really interested in the driving side. More interested in the technical side. So I'm really into Time Attack and Formula One because they're high engineering cars. Like aerodynamics is a key interest. It's really only been lately within probably the last 18 months that driving has become the primary reason that I'm playing car games.
It's really interesting because, I mean, everyone that follows sim racing and does sim racing, whether it be on a controller or with a wheel and pedals, we all want to get faster. And what you've shown is that you've come from a point when you were, 7 or 8 seconds away from the top times, and now you're a fraction, 3 or 4 tenths away from the top time, which is really, really very, very good indeed. So for everyone who's watching tonight, you need to watch INXILE's lap guides because you're going to learn a huge amount, and it's really encouraging being able to learn, the tips of how to get around the track properly, because a lot of people simply just won't have thought about, the important corners, getting the braking bits right, accelerating right, keeping the car steady, things like that. All the things you have to kind of master if you're going to do a really good lap time. So it's for all the people watching tonight. You need to make sure you sign up to INXILE's channel. I've got it in the description. I've managed now to figure out how to do that. So it's in there, and they can get to it, no problem at all, from the link that's there. But what would you say? Obviously, you've done a lot of Gran Turismo. Do you have a favourite track and car combination?
This is really difficult. I was a Suzuka hater. And then I can't remember why. Maybe it was one of the original track guides, or maybe it was one of the races I did really well at. But actually, it might have been even the Lewis Hamilton Challenge. I just sat down and spent lots and lots of time at that track, and it really became, it moved its way very close to the top of my shortlist of favorite tracks. Just that turn one entry, that S's section through to Dunlop, I think they're called the Degners. It's just such a technical track, and it's really rewarding. I enjoy the grass on the side of the road. So you really have to push the car right to the edge to maximize your lap time there, and it's very unforgiving, which makes it much more rewarding, I think. And yeah, I can't really explain why I like it so much.
It's such a famous track too, though, isn't it? I mean, the history of Suzuka is amazing. I mean, everyone gets those Senna and Prost crashing, whether it be at the first corner or at the last chicane. It's got real kind of character and kind of. I always remember Murray Walker doing it was way back in the 90s. When he was standing on the grid at Monza before the race, when it was quiet and the mist was coming up, and it was amazing. And he said, literally, motor Grand Prix history literally oozes from the tarmac. It's got that kind of amazing history, really. So Suzuka, and do you like other tracks too?
Generally, Tsukuba. Tsukuba is another favorite of mine. It's the home of Time Attack, and it's probably where I spent the most amount of time in Gran Turismo 5 and Gran Turismo 6. I think they might have even had Time Attack cars in the game at that stage, and I used to just spend hours and hours just trying to replicate some of the world's fastest Time Attack times around Tsukuba. And the other affinity is obviously the Nordschleife. Pumped many hours around there. Not really good at it, but I just enjoy the, I guess, how road-like the track is. It's very much like going for a mountain cruise. And
I did it last week, and I never thought I would enjoy that race, but to be fair, I really actually quite liked it, because it's such a one you've got to concentrate the whole way through. And it's tough, but it is quite fun, actually. Certainly in Group 4 cars, it was quite manageable. I think the guys that do really well on the faster cars, I think they're really good at it. But it's on Group 4, I think us mere mortals can manage it relatively well, isn't it?
I don't have any really solid good times there. I don't think I've ever spent the time. Anyone that watches my channel will always hear me complain about how time limited I am. And I really enjoy short tracks. I struggle the long distance concentration. Trying to keep the brain in gear for 7 minutes it's extremely taxing.
Yeah.
So
Now we've actually, saying that you love Suzuka, we've got Rory on board. Rory's following us today, or here he is.
Yeah, Rory,
and he of course is a big star at Suzuka. That's one of his favourite circuits, and so you've got something in common there with Rory being able to master Suzuka. And so no, that is a hard track, and as you say, it demands so much, especially the first 7 or 8 corners, don't they, as you go up to the S's. But if you get them right, it does feel great. As you kind of come through to the top part and into the hairpins and things, and the figure of 8, aren't they? Or that, but no, that is quite a thing. What track would you like to see added to Gran Turismo? Because it doesn't have places like Silverstone and other tracks.
I'm very Australian centric here. I really just want to play a game with a track called Phillip Island on it. It's a motorbike circuit. It's fast and flowing, and it's smooth. It's probably got 3 corners in road cars that can be taken in excess of 180 kilometers an hour. And similar to Suzuka, it's got no runoff. So it's all about keeping it on the black stuff in the middle, very unforgiving. And I really enjoy the high speed. It's such a high speed circuit. I think it's a top gear. Turn 12 onto the main straight is like just in road cars is 160 to 180, and then turn 1 is probably in excess of 200 kilometer an hour. And it's on a blind crest. So you just come over a crest. There's nothing but ocean in front of you, and you've just got to turn in and hope that the road reappears on the other side of the crest. And I'm not sure how super exciting it would be in a game, but in real life, it's so much adrenaline.
That's what I wish they would do with F1, that they would bring in some of the old classic circuits that you don't get on the new ones. Like obviously Malaysia's been dropped. That was always quite a good circuit, but things like Phoenix, Arizona, where you had all the classics and you could be a Lacey against Senna or something like that, and have that that would be quite a good challenge. Or the kind of the old Paul Ricard, or the old Imola, when it was still the proper Tamburello corner, and before they put the chicanes in, things like that, I think would be quite fun. But I've got a question for you from one of my other co-hosts, from Andrew Marr, saying, how does previous experience of mechanics and real racing help you to connect with the sim side of racing, or does it actually connect at all?
That is an excellent question, and I would say, does it correlate? It's very difficult to say, because all your past experiences do help you form opinions and ideas into understanding what someone is trying to tell you. But if it's directly relevant, maybe not so much, because you can see a lot of there's a lot of fast young people at the moment, and you wouldn't suggest that they understand mechanics of the cars, but they can still turn out the lap time. So is there correlation? And a lot of fast drivers these days, it's almost become the driving discipline itself isn't really related. Like I can't remember if we were talking on the stream already, but I've read a few how to drive fast books, and there's not a huge amount of crossover in between the techniques required to drive the car fast and understand how the tires feel and how which end of the car. That's more of a crossover into the engineer. If you want to play more technical games, maybe like ACC and iRacing, that might help you. But I don't think it's, for a game like Gran Turismo or Forza or anything like that, I don't think it's directly comparative. It won't inhibit you anyway. You don't really need to know.
That's the nice thing about Gran Turismo, that you don't have to have great setups, in terms of, it's really just brake balance, and that's really about it, to do the races. And then obviously your strategy if you're doing FIA or the longer races, which is nice, because it means there's not so much to figure out. You just kind of have to drive the car as fast as you can and hope that you can make it work and get right up there. And I hope that continues.
That is my key draw to Gran Turismo. I just want to arrive and drive. I don't want to load setups. I don't want to be in a team. I don't want to be under pressure for, I don't want to spend 7 hours or 8 hours perfecting the toe in or the toe out, or how much camber rebound I have in my car. I I just want to rock up and try and drive fast. And I think it's once you start adding setups into it, I think setups, they're not only for, but I think setups are more important for consistent drivers. So if you can lap a track within 1/10, say 10 laps in a row, and then you can adjust something in the car, then you can see what the change made. But if you can't drive a car that consistently, then changing setups it's just not going to help you. You'll never know if you went the right way or whether you've improved. Because if you do 10 laps of a track, the odds are you're going to slowly get more consistent of it. But if you make a change at the 5-lap mark, then did you improve in the second 5 laps, or did the car improve in the second 5 laps? And that it becomes all too complicated for me. I'm just trying to play a game and have some fun. So
yeah. No, that's I mean, that's a good answer to that question, because I think that is. It's the realism as well of what we're trying to get over, isn't it? The sim, having the better setup as well, enables you to be able to catch that a bit more, isn't it? And Andrew just added to his question there, saying because he doesn't do sim racing as such, he has played games in the past, but doesn't have the most up to date sim equipment. So he was saying, how do you think it compares? Because you've got the mechanical knowledge as well. Do you think that the sim, having the wheel and pedals, gives you a more realistic feel of how the real car reacts?
Okay, that is an even better question. On the controller, I was adamant that I was never going to buy a steering wheel. You watch YouTube video after YouTube video how controllers are as fast as steering wheels. But I had the self-belief that if you gave me the steering wheel and the correct information, that I'd be able to translate that into an action. And instantly, from changing from the controller to the steering wheel, the lap times dropped considerably, like so quickly. It took me probably 2 weeks to match my best controller times. But then I was taking half a second off every week thereafter. And when I upgraded from the G29 to the Fanatec, the lap time just kept coming down, because the Fanatec gave me even more information of what was happening on the road. I could really start to feel the compression in the front of the car. I could feel the tire tear, like the slip angles of the front and rear. Like I could feel how much slip I had on each part of the car.
Wow.
And that just gives you a lot more information to work with. And that leads into a question I want to put in there about brake balance, and why do I always go to brake balance to the rear? The simple answer is brake balance to the rear on not every car. On most cars, helps rotate the car. Most of the cars in Gran Turismo don't really rotate in the trail braking section of the corner. So as you lift off your threshold braking into your trail braking, you really need to have the car rotating prior to the apex, because that's going to allow you to straighten the car up and accelerate out of the corner quicker. And just most of the cars in Gran Turismo don't really rotate in that trail braking section. So putting brakes to the rear just helps me get the car rotated before the corner. Which is essentially why it's always to the rear. And I don't really recommend that everyone just go to the rear straight away. Brake balance is more personal. It's how you're interacting with the car in the corner is really important. The way that you apply the brake and release the brake is dependent on where your brake balance should be. And you really have to notice the way that you're releasing the brake in the corner, and then try and adjust your brake balance to suit to help the car rotate. Yeah,
because that's what you have to do that with front-wheel drive cars, isn't it? Like the Audi TT and the Peugeot. Because when I did my stream on Monday, one of my followers had said, "Well, make sure you put your brake balance up to 5 on the rear, because it'll get the car to snap a bit more." And it's true; it reacts so much better under braking, and even just through the corners and different things. It's just, you see that it does corner a lot better. So in those ways, it's quite good, because it's gives you a chance to compete better. And
Yeah.
if you can make those extra tenth of a second at every corner, it's going to add up on your lap time and make you a lot more competitive.
Definitely. More so the 5 to the rear in the front wheel drive cars also helps in your threshold braking because you're minimizing weight transfer.
Mm-hmm.
So you're keeping more weight over the rear of the car in the threshold braking section, which gives you more overall total grip. So that really gets the car pulled up nice and quickly.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. So what would you say has been your biggest kind of gain in lap time? Is it something going back to getting the fastest corner on the fastest straight, right? Or has there been other things as well that have made a big impact to the speed that you've
I would love to isolate it down to one thing, but the reality is it's just been a chip away effect. You just chip away at your technique. You're just continually chipping away at it. There's no magic bullets. There's no secrets to unlock.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that accumulation of knowledge. You learn those little things like what I was saying about the most important corner on the track. If you're nailing that every time, you are rocking up to the brake. You're rocking up to the brake zone at the same speed every time thereafter, which means you will always have this. Then you can start working on that brake zone now because you're always arriving at the same speed. If you're not arriving at the brake zone at the same speed every time, you can't work on your entry to the next corner.
Mm-hmm.
So once you've got that corner nailed, now you can start working on the brake zone out of that corner, which will then allow you to start working on your apex, which will then allow you to start working on your exit, which will then let you arrive at the next corner at the same speed every lap. And then you can start working on that brake zone and then that corner. And it's just a continual, it's just a continual learning event as you find a little bit of apex speed that's going to change your entry into the next corner, which will then change the technique required to get through that corner. So it's
that is good to know, and that is excellent info for all our viewers and sim racers who are desperately trying to find extra tenths to get the lap times down. Now, the question we've got from Nippy Racing, it says, can you get quicker by racing, or is time trialing the key?
Both are extremely important. Racing teaches you where different lines are on the track. One thing that time trialing won't teach you, say if you're following a ghost or you're just doing what you are doing, you will just arrive at every corner at the same speed at the same time all the time. In racing, you might be forced to change your line. You might have someone behind you or someone in front of you that you're trying to catch. So you're gonna attack each corner differently, and then you will learn that there's different amounts of grip in that corner, which you might not find at time trialing. You'll get stuck in your ways time trialing. So you need to balance both of them.
I definitely find that to be true, because when I was trying to really focus on getting my lap times better, all I did was time trial and hardly ever did racing on the. I would do the race A, B, and C, but just time trial it. And while I did get quicker, I struggled then when if I do a race, I couldn't match my lap times that well at all in the race. I would really struggle. So I try now to balance it and just bite the bullet and say, right, I need to do so much time trial and then at least a few races. And then before I did the live streaming. But yeah, because you've got to do it, otherwise your racecraft really suffers if you're not doing it consistently.
Definitely. I don't race as much as I should. I find it steals too much of my time. So I try and only. Well, I used to only play less than an hour a day. So these days I'm sort of pumping that up to an hour and a half a day as we try to improve. But where was I going with that? There was something important. Oh, racing fast people. So if you can get your time. Say if you're starting in the top 5 on the daily racing, and I would suggest that everyone just crank out daily racing. It's really important to learn other people, learn how to race with other people, but it gives you an opportunity. So if you're starting 4th or 5th, just really watch those guys in front of you, like mimic their lines, really sit behind them and really analyze what they're doing and see what you can learn, because especially it's not as prevalent in the higher ranks, but in the lower ranks, there's really a lot of differences. You will be doing the same lap times as the guys around you, but each person will have a strength in a different corner.
Yeah.
And so he'll be really good in this corner and he won't be so good in this corner, but he'll be good in another section of the track. So you really need to emulate what they're doing. So really try and pick up what lines they're using, what they're doing, and then try and emulate it behind them. It's not really important to go and overtake them straight away because you're faster than them on one corner. Really try and take, like, every single person has a different technique and something different that they can give to you when you're watching them drive. And just try and absorb the information from those around you, because there's so many people sharing, and you never know what you're going to listen to or what you're going to see that is going to help you click for that next 10th that you're looking for.
Yeah. That's quite interesting, because when I interviewed David Perel a wee while ago at the beginning of the year, he had said that now he recommends that you do maybe 20 minutes practice or half an hour's practice, and then do 3 races on the daily races, but no more than 3. So you're not on the game for maybe more than an hour and a half at maximum, kind of thing, and then that should be enough. But then obviously do it consistently. And he now reckons that things like GT Sport is actually more effective than go-karting in some ways, because actually you can learn, and when you think how many miles you can cover, and all the things like I said, the Corsa as well, and these, as he's doing the Sim Hub and the races from there, the people learn a huge amount. I certainly found when I tried ACC and then came back to Gran Turismo, I was quicker on Gran Turismo, partly because you don't get the lines, you don't get the cones, and you don't sometimes get the brake markers as well. Yep. You've really got to go from the curbs and other things to try and...
Yeah, that would be other advice that I would have is... I think I was asked about this recently. Maybe do a couple of base laps with your aids on, and then keep turning them off. So say maybe start your first 10 minutes with all your aids on, and then turn, say, the line off, then turn the little blue dot off, then turn the cones off. And by the time you're 20 minutes into the session, you really want to, with all those cones, lights and lines off, you really want to be doing the same times or better than what you were doing at the start of the session. And what you're trying to do is imprint the information, because you're not really driving the car. Your brain's driving the car for you, and it's just taking your input, the sensory information in, and then you're just reacting to it naturally. So if you remove all those aids, you're imprinting more of the screen and you're getting a sense of the surroundings. And that way, when you move into the race, it doesn't matter if you don't have brake boards, if someone knocks all your brake boards off, or someone hits your cones, or because all the other information that is around on the screen at that time is helping you make your decisions. Not reliant. I really noticed, like, I think I lost the best part of a second when I turned the cones off. Like, the first time I ever did it, I was just like, I don't even know where to brake for any of these corners. It just didn't make any sense anymore. And what I'd narrowed my focus down to just like 2 orange cones. And there's so much more happening on the screen that you need to be aware of. Turning the aids off really helps you open. And I think just turning them off will improve your times. Like, because the next day when you turn them back on, you might see that they're a hindrance. I turn them on, say, like a week after having turned them off, and I noticed that all the cones were in the wrong spots. I'm like, oh, you don't brake anywhere near that. You need to be braking like 5 meters after that, and that turning point is nowhere near where I should be turning in.
That can be quite...
train yourself to the cone. You're losing time. Like, they're really elementary aids, and I think turning them off will really, really help you learn the track.
No, that's the thing. No, that's really good to know, isn't it? Because as you say, you get so used to that. And in fact, there are certain bits in Gran Turismo where it tells you to brake if you have the brake sign that comes on, and you don't have to brake at all for that whole corner. You can ignore that brake sign completely.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's going to be slowing you down massively if you believe that. And obviously, if it's a hairpin, you're going to have to brake. But for some of these kind of long, quite fast corners, quite often you go through it, and when you realise that the fastest guys, they're not braking at all, and the car's perfectly fine. It's not even screeching or on that much of the limit. So no, it's amazing how you do rely on those kind of aids at first, but actually they're not going to give you the fastest time around the track.
Like I even have that flashing gear covered at the moment, because that puts me off as well. So because the next thing I noticed after turning the cones and the lines off, I noticed that my brain was just waiting for that gear flashing indicator, and then say a quarter of a second after the gear flashing indicator went off, then I would start braking. And it's like, well, I shouldn't be using a gear indicator to tell me when I'm braking and when I'm accelerating.
Yeah.
So even that's covered these days. So most of my HUD is covered. Actually, I can't see any of it. I think the only bit I can see is the corner of my corner of that little blue bar that comes off the screen, because even that puts you off when you're trying to change gears. It's not necessarily right for every car, and it's not necessarily wrong. You can get more input if you just listen to the engine and listen to the way that the car loads up.
Yeah. So here's an interesting question for you for that. Some cars like the Corvette, the people who do the fastest lap times are changing up a wee bit earlier. Do you find that is an actual advantage? Because, and what cars would you suggest are ones that might apply to?
Unfortunately, I'm not a pro time trialer as much as people think I am. I change when I feel the engine feels okay. And I have time trialed in the Viper lately, trying to catch some really fast times, and they were changing probably just a little bit after half. The engine doesn't sound like it's ready to change.
Yeah.
But I found it to be worth around about 400ths. So for those that aren't looking for anything for tenths, if you're not looking for tenths yet, I don't think it's important yet.
Yeah.
It does actually make a difference. You can visually see it changing your distances between the ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as delta times, it's not affecting it as much. Like if you had 2 or 3 straights, it might be worth a tenth. But if you're not looking for a tenth, then I don't think it's critical personally. But that's just my opinion.
And also maybe stabilizes the car a bit more if you change up a wee bit earlier, isn't it? For some corners and some tracks.
It would. What was I going to say? It's probably more important having the right gear selection inside the corner. So generally, the little gear indicator is 1 gear below where you should be. So if it says you should take the gear in the corner in second, you should be in third. And I've found lately, probably within the last 2 months, that it's even more beneficial to roll even in a gear higher than that these days. So sometimes I'm rolling into the corner in 2 gears higher than that indicator. Like this week's second Lesmo at Monza. It should be, or it's not, but you'll see a lot of people using third, but rolling in and out in fourth is actually better.
It keeps the grip better, doesn't it? It actually keeps the car, you can accelerate out much better in fourth.
Yeah, so the engine feels labored down, like you're not accelerating, but the amount of time you made from not doing the downshift on the entry, the car is more stable on the entry of the corner. And so if it's more stable on entry, it's going to be more stable on exit. And that's worth more time than the downshift and the upshift.
Yeah.
So,
and also you lose time from changing gear. It's just
that's what I mean. So you've lost the time by unsettling the car. You lose the time in the shift. And so you lose 2 times worth of shift versus the unsettled, like the car being unsettled as well. So you could find yourself a tenth or 2 just in having a better, like a more stable car through the corner.
Now, we've had an excellent quote here, actually, by Ant. He said, I got a Ski Electrics and I put a SIM card on it. Is this now sim racing?
I think it is. That's definitely sim racing. I don't see how it couldn't be.
That's how you do it on a budget. If you don't get yourself a Ski Electric set,
Yeah.
and there you go. You know. But to be funny, we once, when my co-host Jonathan was doing his racing license at Silverstone way back in 2007, Jan Magnussen was actually on the same course. There were two groups on this course, and there were two groups of 12, and they had two different racing days. But Jan Magnussen and his father, what was the other one? It was Jan Magnussen. It was Kevin Magnussen and Jan Magnussen. That's what it was. They were phenomenal at Ski Electrics. But I don't know how they managed it, because they had a massive Ski Electric set in the entry hall at the Race Drivers Club at Silverstone, and they were all around it constantly, and they could go faster than anybody else around this thing. Maybe it was the reaction timing and things like that. But no, it's quite funny how you can do it on practice on Ski Electrics, and you never know where you might end up. But we never thought when we took that picture, and Kevin Magnussen's actually in the picture. I'm going to have to get it from Facebook and put it on our show here, because nobody believes me when I said, well, we stood on the podium with Kevin Magnussen when he was only about 14, or he was, just a young chap, but well before he got into Formula One. And it's also Jonathan's claim to fame to be on the same course as he was. But no, we'll get on to another question here. They're coming in thick and fast.
Oh, before I just jump in, I see Keith said maybe he's destined to be a midfielder. There's no such thing, mate. Really, it's how you only take the game as seriously as you want to. I try not to take it too seriously. Mainly my time trialing and learning to become faster that's the fun part. Like I really enjoy like trying to find those tenths and trying to find that time and really improve my technique. So if that's the fun part for you, then that's what you do. Otherwise, stick to the bit that you enjoy in the game. If you like making liveries, make liveries. If you like taking photos, take photos. If you like time trialing, get some books, do some reading, and just time trial. If you like racing, just sit on the racetrack and race. It doesn't actually matter. As long as you're enjoying yourself, that is the only reason I play the game. So
yeah, I think that comes over a lot, doesn't it? And people who are enjoying doing what they're doing, it's fun. I mean, I did, although I was deeply frustrated on Monday night on my stream in Monza, I did actually enjoy it, because you need those tough races to kind of make you think, okay, we've had some nice races where we've cruised to victory, or we've been able to stay in the top three quite relatively easily. They were good races, but when people take you off and punt you, you've got to think, okay, how do I avoid that? That's the next challenge of trying to up your racing. And yes, there will be a few bleeps here and there when it happened, but you've got to hopefully it was good for the audience as well, because they see that you're still going, you're still having another shot, you're not giving up. And you do enjoy it. I mean, you forget quite quickly about your bad races.
I couldn't tell you any of them.
But no, that's the thing. Keith's saying, agreed, I love and enjoy every moment of racing, even in last place. I mean, it's true. It's quite. I think that they're saying, Fat Furby's saying, never rage quit, finish no matter what. The thing is, and it's true, because at DT Sport you can fall to last right away and still finish really high, which is true. And for example, I did the Group C race this week. The one it's the Group 2 at Tokyo, which is the expressway, and I thought I quite like the Group C. I haven't done so much of it for the daily racing, so I want to try and do a bit better. And I was hopelessly slow. I was like 4.5 seconds off the pace of the best lap time in the world, and I thought, well, surely I'll maybe get to maybe 2.5 seconds off, but I was nowhere near. I couldn't master the chicanes, but I ended up being like 15th on the grid, and very quickly went to 17th. I was punted at the first chicane, but I thought, right, I'm just going to keep going and see what happens. In the end, I think we finished, I think it was 13th or something like that, 13th or 14th. But it was a good race, because you learn so much. And I thought, actually, my pace isn't that far away from the guys in front. So you learn by following them as well, isn't it? And trying to kind of catch up a bit.
Yeah, it's the difference between qualifying and race pace is a lot. Like if you're probably within 1 second of the top time trialers, you'll be fairly comparative on their race pace. That board trails off fairly quickly, as in yeah, to find those couple of tenths in time attack is they're really nailing some of them high-speed sections, and they can be worth 3 or 4 tenths, but they won't be nailing them in every lap when they daily race. So
yeah,
they come back to the field pretty quickly. I guess that's why, I don't know, is it offensive? We call it the wank board down here, because it's really just, you just want to look at your name. Like when you open Gran Turismo Sport, you're like, oh, look, there's my name. But yeah, it doesn't really translate to race pace or yeah, it's very rare that you find someone that can race at their time trial speed.
Yeah, and some of them may have set it quite early on and haven't matched it since, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's it. We have Jeff with us as well.
Jeff,
from the Amazons, I'm sure he'll be doing a live show tonight. I think, is it the rally night tonight, or is it? I'm trying to think. It was GT3 that they do on a Thursday. But yeah, so we're getting lots of big racers in tonight. And the comment is, Thea and I did a Scalextric stream a few months ago, Hugh. That was great fun. I bet it was, actually. It is quite a fun game to play. I remember I was so disappointed because when I was a kid, I wanted a Scalextric set, because it had all the proper cars and the F1 cars and all of that. And I'd asked for it, sent a letter to Santa when I was about 9 years old or whatever it was. My parents got me. It wasn't a Scalextric set. It was some very dodgy ripoff that was, that was battery powered, and the cars looked like they were kind of cheap, very, very cheap replicas, that were nothing like what you saw on TV. And they said, there you are, that's all you're getting. So that was that. And the batteries lasted for about 30 minutes and that was it, done. So it was in the old days, but no, Scalextrics is certainly a lot better than it used to be. So keep your questions coming in, and we'll be asking James all about his incredible skills, and not just time trial, but racing as well. What would you say you would like to see in Gran Turismo in the future for the next GT7?
Almost needed to be pre-prepared for some of these, I think. What do I want out of the game? I'm very Japanese-centric, so I just want to see more classic Japanese cars. Back in the early Gran Turismos, there was a huge array for it's really more probably relevant for us Australian and New Zealanders. We have such a big classic Japanese car culture. And in some of the early GT games, we had like every classic Japanese car you could think of was in the game. And it's sort of sad that a lot of those classic cars have fallen by the wayside.
Yeah.
So GT7 can become a more car culture game like it used to be. I think there's so much more than GT Sport. Like there's so many players that never even access the sport side of the game.
Yeah.
And hopefully GT7 can really. Sometimes I just sit down on a Sunday, sit down with a controller, and I just want to make a livery or thrash an old car or just enjoy myself, go back to and try and relive the old Gran Turismo 3-4 days. And so hopefully we can see, and maybe for the Europeans, maybe if they just start adding some classic European cars and really, because that's where I learned so much from this game. I used to read the blurbs on every car. I'd go in, click on the car, read that little blurb on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
And just be like, oh, this is why this car's in the game. This is why this is important. This is, really, like I said, a mechanic, love working with my hands, love cars culture. And I really thought that Gran Turismo had really made that connection in the computer world. It really, you could, I think like Furby said, you could go to the car wash, you can go and wash your car, you can go and change your oil, you can do all that.
That was a brilliant one, wasn't it? And it would make a bit of a difference to your performance if you got an oil change every so often.
Yeah, I was saying in the stream the other night, I think I had 3,000 or 4,000 Ks on a car. I was like, we need to go and get an oil change to get bloody an extra 50 horsepower. I need some horsepower back in this thing. So And then if you did like the old, the hack, if you did the oil change on the brand new car, I think you got about 20 horsepower. So it was even even like little nuggets like that where you're just like, oh, just, they'd put so much effort into that car culture side of the game.
Yeah.
Like I really do love sport, but I also, I do miss that car culture side of it.
No,
And
it needed that, and it had a mixture of really good cars and some really terrible cars. I love the old Volkswagen camper vans. And was it Gran Turismo 5 that you had to race around the Top Gear track? I think they were hilarious. They were great fun. I'd love to see that, and also the Goodwood hill climb. I really enjoyed doing that. That was a really hard challenge, but it was great fun, and I think they could do a lot more with that. I think it would be good to get that one back.
Not everyone, but in Reddit, I've noticed come across the screen a few times. Like, why don't we have Pikes Peak? Like, apparently Gran Turismo sponsors Pikes Peak. Like, I used to be such a Pikes Peak fanboy back in the day, and just having that on there would be so good. Like, we could, because it's virtual, we could have the full dirt Pikes Peak, we could have the full bitumen Pikes Peak, and the few years where it was the crossover in between. Just stuff like that. Like,
with the old Peugeot rally car, like the old cars from the 80s, the Audi Quattros and all of that. That would be amazing. I think that would be fantastic fun. Now we've got a very appropriate question regarding not just the penalty system on GT Sport, but Jonathan has said, let's see now, here we are. I think you should be able to bribe the FIA like they do in real life.
Ferrari, no names.
So that would be one. And also your good friend Fat Furby was saying a penalty system that they don't change every week, which is true. And it says, Jonathan says, pay 10,000 game credits for a spurious safety car. Good
old Gran Turismo safety cars. We need the R34 safety car back. I'm not sure if they have it in this version. I think we might be under later model safety cars, but we need the original Gran Turismo R34 safety car back with a vengeance.
That would be good. Thea from the Amazon is saying the Pikes Peak car is absolutely crazy because she does a lot of dirt rally. In fact, it was her rally stream tonight, which is always very, very good to watch. And that we know that it does look great fun. But I think that would be amazing if they could get Pikes Peak's car that kind of and that track. That would be fantastic. I think they would that would give it the character, because I think in some ways Gran Turismo is lacking a little bit in those kind of motorsport character races that it needs. And it captured it. It did have it before, when it had the Goodwood hill climb and things like that, and the Top Gear. It was kind of, everyone was talking about that. They said, "Oh, have you done Challenge 3 on the Top Gear track yet?"
The glory days, mate. It was the glory days of Gran Turismo. But hopefully we can get back there.
That's the thing. We'll keep your questions firing through for James Maxwell or INXILE, because it's going really, really well, and we're having some fantastic banter as well from everyone who's watching. Now, a quick question for you all. We are looking to interview more of you. So who's going to be brave enough to join the likes of James here tonight, and Rory Alexander and Super GT? They've all been on the show. Would you like to be next? All you need to do is email me, info@hughhatrick.com, and we can get you on the show, and we'll be interviewing you all about your motorsport history, so your followers and fans can get to know what you really like and what you really think. So let me know and send me an email, and it will be fantastic to get you all on the show. So we'll carry on. A random F1 question. Who's going to be winning the Drivers' Championship in F1 in 2021? It's early prediction time.
Is there really anybody else? Hammy's got it in the bag. Is there even anyone else racing at the moment? It's such a tough, so tough. Like, when he's at the top, every time I think Hamilton has peaked, he just finds another gear. It's like, I feel so bad for Ricciardo, like being an Aussie fan, watching Webber get blitzed by Vettel, and then now watching Ricciardo. Like, I feel Ricciardo has the pace, you know what I mean? But he just happens to become Australia's best driver at the time where Hamilton is just unstoppable, and Mercedes Mercedes are equally unstoppable. I can't see the dream is McLaren next year, and to ruin all your viewers' dreams, like McLaren is a New Zealand car company, so the Kiwis just want McLaren back on top. It's yeah.
And I think with Ricardo going there, that he'll be good. I mean, he's been phenomenal and has some great overtakes, and he's got more out of that Renault than Ocon by a long way. I mean, he's actually made Ocon look quite slow. To be fair.
Yeah, I was. I never really rated Ocon in his first go, but I thought I was really worried that he might actually be quick and take it to Ricardo. But it feels like Ricardo has just taken it in his stride. So that's good. Like, it's good for the Aussie fans.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope McLaren with the Mercedes engine can really step up their game. It's going to be interesting to see because that Renault engine has come on quite strongly.
Yeah.
Whether it is actually the engine or not, it's difficult to say. But Renault do like to brag that they've made the horsepower now. So just hopefully McLaren don't slip back because it's going to be a chassis change as well to fit that engine in.
Yeah.
And hopefully there's no backward steps. Hopefully it's just a matter of bolting it in and staying on the same pace. It's just really hard to say like where the torque and the power curve is in each engine, whether it's going to respond, whether the chassis can respond to the different harmonics of the engine will be interesting. But we'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah, no, it is quite a good season overall. I mean, it's not anywhere near as close as it was last year because I think we had some great races last year, quite a few. And at the start, Ferrari looked like they might just do it, but it was the strategy that always let them down. It's an interesting one because you kind of think, obviously it was all engine mods, wasn't it? It was all the engine that was so powerful, and then of course thanks to the irregularities, they were told not to do that anymore. And it takes something else for Ferrari to be kind of told they're not allowed to do that. But it must have been a major advantage that they had with that engine for them to have to get penalised, certainly. But I think it makes the sport. I mean, I hope they can close the gap a bit as well, especially for next year, as things get to normal.
I really hope the rebrand to Aston Martin is really good for Racing Point as well. Like, I would love could you imagine if we could have a grid of like the likes of Mercedes, Aston Martin, and McLaren all just pumping it out at the front? Like, that would be.
Well, I mean,
that's the stuff dreams are made of.
There was Kimi Räikkönen in second place in his Alfa Romeo for a while on last Sunday, and we almost thought maybe I think he was on the wrong tyres. But if that car had just been a little bit better, there was a possibility that Alfa could have won that race in Monza, and that would have been an incredible, kind of almost historic victory for them if they had been a bit quicker, But because Räikkönen is quite reliable, to be fair, but I think the car just he struggled. Now I've got an idea here. Who would like to see Jeff Colclough come on the show? Because I know we've had his fiancée on the show with Théo Amouizant, and if you don't know who she is, you need to check out her channel because she's a phenomenal female racer. But I think, Jeff, it would be very interesting to get your idea of what goes on, what it's like to be Thea's partner in crime for all that racing and rallying that she does. I'm sure we'd love to have you all on the show. That would be amazing. So in closing, we'll get to a stage. If there's any more quick, fast questions, we'll get them to you. But what do you think GT7 will bring us? Do you think there will be anything that will be really exciting, that will be worth making that purchase?
I think the sports side is going to be relatively similar. I think the big energy in the game will be if they can reharness some of that energy from especially 3 and 4, just really make it a cult popular game again. I think, like, if you look at the numbers, I don't know, I'm a bit of a numbers guy. I like to grind the numbers, but it looks like there's close to 8 million players of Gran Turismo Sport, yet we're less than 800,000 people playing sport mode. So I don't even think sport mode's hit hit 1 million players in its life. So the casual side of the game has the biggest player base, and I think that GT7 is just going to cater to those guys. Really, I think they're really going to push to bring some of that traditional Gran Turismo back, and GT Sport will probably be bolted on the side for us more, for us race enthusiasts. Like, I've definitely got the bug now, and I'm hooked. So I'll definitely stay on the sports side of the game. But I think the big news for Gran Turismo 7 will be on the casual side of the game. So you might be wrong.
Yeah, no, I certainly hope they can bring back more tracks and more cars. I think that would be really exciting, and it would bring that kind of more fun experience to doing Gran Turismo. And I hope they can race them as well in GT Sport, in terms of, put it on the sports side of it. I think that would be really, really good, because when you get like the 1960s minis racing around Suzuka East or Brands Hatch Indy or Goodwood, they're great round Goodwood. I really love those races. And I don't know if you remember the one a wee while ago, they did Mark 1 Golf GTIs around it was the German Grand Prix. It was the Nuremberg, when they were Nürburgring. And that was a fantastic race. It was kind of brutal for the first few corners, but it was great fun, and the cars were such a laugh to drive. So I think they should do that with a Golf GTI, a Renault 5 Turbo, and a Peugeot 205 GTI, the old one, the early ones. That would be, I think that would be hilarious. Maybe an MG Metro, something terrible from Britain, to come along and try and do something like that as well. But I think that could be quite good fun. And I know there's supposed to be a British touring car game coming out in the next wee while. That could be quite good. I'm not sure who's making it, but I saw someone put an advert for it. So that could be quite fun, because it was like the cars from the 90s. You had the Volvo Estates, you had all the Vauxhall Cavaliers and all of that, Toyota Carinas and things. I think that would be a huge amount of fun. There used to be a great game. Now, what was it? It wasn't saloon cars. It was Toka touring cars. That's what it was. And on the early stages of that, you could do the kind of career, and you would start in single seaters like Formula Ford. And I had this great battle round Silverstone in the Formula Ford race, but I touched wheels with somebody else, and it was the AI at the time, and they went spiraling off, doing this great cartwheel off into the side of the track. And the next time I came round, honestly, it was the most advanced thing I'd ever seen for the time. It's never been matched, I don't think. The guy was standing at the next to his car, waving his fist at me the next time I went round. It was brilliant. And I thought, we need a bit more of that, kind of fun responses from the AI or other drivers to kind of, make it kind of work. I think that would be quite fun. But that's a lot of people are saying, bring back Toka touring cars. That would be a brilliant one. And I think that would be fun. Well, it looks like Jeff has said yes. It looks like Jeff is up for coming back on the show. That will be fun. We'll get a date sorted out in the diary, and that will be one definitely not to miss. That will be good fun. We'll find out all the secrets of Thea's success and all of that. But to you, James, thank you very much for coming on the show tonight. And stay on the line just now. And thank you to all our viewers and watchers. I know you've been all around the world, from New Zealand, from Australia, from Canada, from America, and from Britain and across Europe. We've got one last question. What is your sim setup?
Yeah, excellent question. I've got a track racer. I think it's the RS8.
All right, that's a good one.
Yeah, and Fanatec CSL Elite. That's all you need, isn't it? I think just those two pieces of equipment.
Yeah,
so I do have the load cell pedal. I can recommend, but yeah, just the basic, and that was just an upgrade from the G29 was the original wheel that I used. And then prior to that, it was all just controller. So
yeah. Well, that's fantastic.
The Audi RS8, but only a little bit of pipe tube without the no engines.
That's great. Oh, on that note, we will end the show. But thank you to everyone for watching tonight from wherever you are across the globe. It's fantastic to have you with us. It's a pleasure to have the community. It's been a pleasure to have James Maxwell all the way from New Zealand. You can see that beautiful bit there in the back of your window there, the sunshine in New Zealand. But thank you very much to all of you for watching the show. And we'll be back on Monday with Fat Man in a Cheap Sim at 9 o'clock on UK time. So make sure you don't miss that. And make sure you subscribe to James's channel, which is INXILE. And the link is in the description. But to all of you, thanks very much. And remember our motto, drive fast and try not to crash. Bye just now.